I didn't lock the door that night. This happened about 3 years ago, and I still don't like talking about it too much. Not because people won't believe me, but because I still don't understand what actually happened that night. At that time, I was living alone in a small rented house at the edge of town. It was a quiet area, not many houses nearby. Mostly empty plots and a few street lights that didn't always work. I liked it because it was peaceful and cheap. Nothing strange had ever happened there before. My daily routine was simple: come back from work around 8 p.m., eat, watch something on my phone, and sleep by 11. That night was normal too. Nothing felt strange. Nothing felt wrong. Around 10:30 p.m., the electricity went out for a few minutes. It wasn't unusual in that area. So I just turned on the flashlight on my phone and waited. The house felt very quiet. Not normal quiet, the kind of quiet where you start noticing small sounds, like your own breathing, the fan slowing down, a dog barking very far away. After a few minutes, the power came back. I locked the main door, checked the windows, and went to bed. I remember clearly, I locked the door. I always did. Sometime in the night, I woke up suddenly. I don't know why. I didn't hear a loud noise or anything. I just woke up. The room was dark, and for a few seconds I didn't move. I just lay there, listening. That's when I heard it. A sound from the other room. Not loud, very soft, like someone moving slowly, trying not to make noise. A small sound, like a foot lightly touching the floor. Then silence. Then another small movement. At first, I thought maybe a rat or a cat got inside. That had happened once before. So I turned on my phone and looked at the time. 3:07 a.m. I don't know why, but seeing that time made me feel uncomfortable. I got out of bed, opened my room door slowly, and looked into the hall. The hall light was off, but a little street light was coming through the window, so I could see a little bit. The main door was visible from my room, and that's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The main door was slightly open. Not fully open, just a little, like someone had pushed it and left it that way. I stood there for a long time, just staring at the door. My mind was trying to understand how that was possible. I clearly remembered locking it. I told myself maybe I forgot. Maybe I only thought I locked it. I walked slowly toward the door. Every step felt very loud. The floor made small creaking sounds. When I reached the door, I saw the lock. The lock was open, not broken, not damaged, just unlocked. I closed the door properly and locked it again. This time I checked it twice. Then I turned around to go back to my room. And that's when I heard the sound again. Behind me, inside the house. A soft sound, like someone quickly taking one step and then stopping. I froze. I didn't turn around immediately. I just stood there, listening. My heart was beating so fast I could hear it in my ears. I slowly turned my head toward the dark hall. "Hello," I said. No answer. I told myself, if someone is inside, they would have attacked me already. Maybe I'm just scared for no reason. I picked up a wooden stick I kept near the door and switched on the hall light. The hall was empty. I checked the kitchen. Empty. I checked the bathroom. Empty. I checked under the table, behind the curtains, everywhere. Nothing. I felt a little stupid. I told myself I was just overthinking and went back to my room. But I didn't sleep. I just lay in bed, awake, staring at the door. After maybe 20 to 30 minutes, I started feeling a little sleepy. And then I heard it again. This time, right outside my room. Not walking. Not running. Just breathing. Slow, heavy breathing. Like someone standing very close to my door, breathing through their mouth. I couldn't move. I couldn't even sit up. I just stared at the door. The breathing continued for maybe 10 to 15 seconds. Then it stopped. Complete silence again. After a few minutes, I somehow got the courage to get up and suddenly opened the door. There was no one there. But one thing was different. On the floor, just outside my room, there were dirty footprints. Clear footprints. Like someone had walked in with wet or muddy feet. The footprints started from the main door and came all the way to my room door. And then they stopped. There were no footprints going back. Only footprints coming toward my room. I didn't sleep the whole night. I sat on the bed holding that wooden stick and waited for morning. As soon as it was morning, I went to the house owner and told him everything. He looked at me for a long time and then asked me one question. "Did you wake up around 3 a.m.?" I said yes. He stayed quiet for a few seconds, then said, "The previous tenant also left the house." He said every night around 3 a.m. someone would knock on his bedroom door and breathe outside. But when he opened the door, there was no one there. I didn't say anything. Then the owner said something I will never forget. He said, 2 years ago, a man died in that house. Heart attack. They found his body in the hall, right outside that bedroom door. I left that house the same week. But the most disturbing part is this. A few days after I moved out, I was checking my phone gallery, deleting old photos and videos. I found a video recorded at 3:06 a.m. that night. I don't remember recording any video. My hands were shaking when I played it. The video was dark, but the camera was facing my bedroom door from inside the room. The video was 18 seconds long. For the first 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then slowly, very slowly, the bedroom door handle started moving. The Enfield Poltergeist Real Horror Story. This story happened in 1977 in Enfield, a quiet place in the United Kingdom. A single mother named Peggy Hodgson lived in a small house with her 4 children. They were a normal family, and for a long time, nothing strange ever happened in that house. But one night, something changed, and their lives were never the same again. It started on a late summer night. Peggy was getting ready to sleep when her daughter, Janet, and her son Johnny ran into her room looking terrified. Janet said her bed was shaking. Peggy thought it was just a bad dream or the kids were scared of the dark. But she still went to their room to check. At first, everything looked normal. But then, suddenly, a chair in the room moved by itself. It didn't fall over, it slowly slid across the floor like someone had pushed it. Peggy tried to pull the chair back, but she later said it felt like someone was pushing it from the other side. That was the moment she realized something was very wrong. After that night, strange things started happening almost every day. They began hearing knocking sounds coming from inside the walls. Peggy tried to talk to whatever was making the noise. She asked if there is someone there, knock once, and there was a knock. Then she asked, "Are you a man?" And there were 2 knocks. The family became so scared that they called the police. When a police officer came to the house, something unbelievable happened. The officer later said she saw a chair move across the floor on its own. After that, the police said they couldn't do anything because no crime had been committed. But things only got worse. Toys started moving and flying across the room. Drawers opened and closed by themselves. Blankets were pulled off the children while they were sleeping. They heard footsteps upstairs when no one was there. Loud bangs came from the walls almost every night. The house was never quiet anymore. Then the scariest thing started happening. Janet began changing. Sometimes she would go into a trance and start speaking in a deep, rough voice that sounded like an old man. The voice said it was a man who used to live in the house and had died there. The voice spoke about things Janet couldn't possibly know. People thought she was faking it. But when she spoke, her lips barely moved. And the voice sounded completely different from hers. One night, when investigators and photographers were in the house, something terrifying happened. Janet's bed started shaking violently. Then suddenly, she was lifted into the air. She was floating above the bed. Pictures were taken that later became famous, showing Janet in the air as if something had thrown or lifted her. These strange and terrifying events continued for almost 2 years. Imagine living in a house where every night you hear knocking in the walls, footsteps in empty rooms, furniture moving on its own, and a voice speaking in the dark. The family was so scared that they often slept together in one room with the lights on. To this day, people still argue about this story. Some people believe the children made it all up. Others believe something truly haunted that house. But the truth is, many people, including a police officer, said they saw things move on their own. This case later became famous all over the world and even inspired the Hollywood movie The Conjuring 2. Some people say it was fake. Some people say it was real. But the Hodgson family said one thing again and again. Whatever was in that house was not human. And even today, many people believe that what happened in that house in Enfield was one of the most terrifying real horror cases in the UK. This is 100% real, as I lived through it for months. It's a bit long, but definitely worth it. This happened back in 2014, when I was 10 years old. My grandfather passed away on November 8th. He and my grandmother used to live with me and my mother. My father was not living with us at that time due to work, but they had moved to another house. My grandfather always wanted to come back and live with us again. But sadly, he passed away before that could happen. His last wish was to return to our home the night before he died. We visited him in the hospital toward the end. He was a bit confused and kept asking us when we would take him back home with us. In fact, every time we visited him, he would ask the same question. Fast forward 2 months later, to mid-January 2015, my mom and I, along with our maid, used to stay up late at night, usually until 3 a.m., watching movies or spending time with our relatives who lived nearby. We had been living in our apartment for about 10 years before this incident happened. Then suddenly, around mid-January, something strange began. When my mom spoke to him about everything that was happening, he became very serious, without hesitation. He said that the spirit of my grandfather was visiting us every night. He seemed genuinely concerned, which was unusual for him. He advised my mom to perform certain rituals and prayers. I don't remember the details clearly, as I was only 11 at the time. After performing those rituals, the disturbances stopped for a while. A few months later, my father got a job in Mumbai, and we moved out of that apartment. However, the story didn't end there. After we left, we tried renting out the flat, but no one was able to stay there for long. One tenant died just weeks after moving in. Another tenant left after a family member passed away, believing the place was inauspicious. Many others reported falling sick and eventually moved out. Today, the flat remains locked. It was later sold to my uncle after my grandfather passed away. I still remember that time very clearly. I used to feel terrified coming home at night, believe it or not, but this really happened to me every single night. Between 2:30 a.m. and 3 a.m., we would hear a loud crashing sound coming from the kitchen. The kitchen was quite far from our bedroom. It sounded exactly like a utensil or a bowl had fallen on the floor. At first, we ignored it. After a few days, we assumed it might be rats, so we set up traps. Within a week, we had caught all the rats, and the traps remained empty afterward. But the crashing sounds never stopped. One night, we heard the loudest crash yet. This time, my mom was convinced that someone had broken into the house. She asked our maid to check the kitchen. The maid went and looked around, but there was no one there. Even more strangely, nothing had fallen, everything was exactly in place. That was the moment all three of us were truly frightened. By the beginning of February 2015, these incidents had become a nightly occurrence. One night, I clearly remember turning off the lights before going to sleep. But when we woke up the next morning, the lights were on. The door had been locked from the inside, so neither the maid nor anyone else could have entered. Around the same time, something else started happening. All the windows in our house had metal grills on them, and they were slightly loose. One night, the grills began to rattle gently, as if a strong wind was shaking them. But the strange thing was, in the 10 years we had lived there, this had never happened before. At first we ignored it, but soon, it started happening every night. A few days later, our maid, who slept in another room across the flat, came running into our room, scared. She said the grills in her room were also shaking and making the same rattling noise. After that, she was too scared to sleep alone and started sleeping in our room on the floor. Finally, my mother decided to consult our family priest. He was known for being very accurate in his predictions and had even predicted the deaths of some of our family members in the past.